the muffled roar of black powder igniting, thick smoke settling over the battlefield. A slow yet deadly shot that marked the beginning of a new era. That's how the journey of firearms began, and the world would never be the same again. Few people stop to think about how each technological advance in firearms reshaped the way armies fought, how empires expanded, and even how human history was written. And that's exactly the transformation you're about to witness. Have you ever wondered how we went from slow-loading, muzzle-stuffed muskets to fully automatic, high-rate-of-fire machine guns? And more than that, what did each of these weapons represent in its time? What were the technological leaps that changed everything? Today you're about to take a trip through a historical arsenal, discovering 10 legendary firearms that didn't just fire bullets, but shaped the modern world. And stick around until the very end, because the last weapon on this list isn't just a technological masterpiece. It redefined how war would be fought in the 20th century. Take a deep breath. The countdown is about to begin. Brown Bess. The Brown Bess emerged in the early 18th century and was officially adopted in 1722 as the standard musket of the British Army. Manufactured primarily by the Tower of London Armoury, this musket became a symbol of British colonial forces for over a century, seeing action in the American Revolution, the Napoleonic Wars, and numerous colonial conflicts across Africa and India. It was a long, smoothbore weapon with a bore diameter of about .75 caliber 19 millimeters. The total length exceeded 5 feet, and it used a flintlock mechanism where a piece of flake struck steel to ignite the powder charge at the breech. Accuracy was minimal, especially at longer ranges. Soldiers were trained to fire in formation, relying on group impact over individual marksmanship. The effective range was about 50 to 70 meters, and reloading took around 20 seconds. An eternity in battle. The recoil was heavy and the shot produced a deep boom, followed by thick white smoke. In a soldier's hands, the Brown Bess was bulky and required strength and discipline. That's why the attached bayonet was often used just as much as the musket ball. It served as the British Army's primary weapon for over 100 years and was copied and exported to many nations. Its legacy is undeniable. The Brown Bess was the pinnacle of flintlock military muskets, and today it's showcased in virtually every major military museum in the Western world. During the American Revolution, many Continental soldiers even used captured Brown Bess muskets, a powerful example of fighting a war with your enemy's own weapon. And if this relic already impresses, wait until you meet the next firearm, another that dominated 18th century battlefields. Charleville Model 1777. Crafted in France at the height of Revolution, the Charleville Model 1777 was the main musket of the French army during the Revolutionary and Napoleonic Wars, named after the Royal Arms Factory in Charleville-Mézières. Its design deeply influenced not just French armaments, but even the first American-made military muskets. Like the Brown Bess, the Charleville was a flintlock, smoothbore musket, measuring about 4.5 feet in length, with a bore of approximately .69 caliber, 18 millimeters. It was muzzle-loaded with black powder, a lead ball, and slow-burning paper cartridges. Its accuracy was slightly better than its British counterpart, and the craftsmanship was more refined. The musket had better balance, which made it easier to carry during long marches. Recoil was still strong, but better absorbed thanks to the high-quality hardwood stock. The firing sound was a thunderous boom with a cloud of smoke, but the ignition was considered more reliable than most weapons of its time. A life or death advantage on the battlefield. The Charleville saw extensive use in Napoleon's campaigns and heavily influenced the design of the Springfield Model 1795, the first musket manufactured in the United States. It's incredible to think that many of the shots fired at decisive battles like Austerlitz and Waterloo came from French soldiers wielding this musket, a weapon that carried not just firepower, but the ideals of revolution. Impressed yet? The next firearm marks a turning point in history, the shift from smooth-bore barrels to rifled accuracy. Enfield Pattern 1853. The Enfield pattern 1853 was the standard issue rifled musket of the British Army in the mid-19th century, signaling the end of the smoothbore era. Produced by the Royal Small Arms Factory in England, this weapon combined raw power with a dramatic increase in precision, thanks to rifling spiral grooves inside the barrel that made the bullet spin, stabilizing its flight. It was still a muzzleloader, firing a .577 caliber conical mini-ball, which expanded upon firing to grip the rifling. The result? A deadly effective range of up to 300 meters, with unmatched accuracy for its time. It used a percussion cap ignition system, a major upgrade from flintlocks, delivering faster and more reliable firing. The recoil was medium, the firing sound sharper and drier, and the overall shooting experience more stable. The Enfield was elegant in appearance. Polished brass fittings, dark hardwood stock, and a refined look that stood in stark contrast to its deadly purpose. It was used extensively in the Crimean War, the Indian Rebellion of 1857, and even the American Civil War. In a soldier's hands, it was a promise of long-range dominance. Its reputation for precision made it a prized asset, even among enemies. Little-known fact, during the American Civil War, many Confederate troops preferred captured Enfields over locally made muskets. That speaks volumes about its battlefield value. So far, all the weapons we've seen were muzzleloaders. But the next firearm changed the game by introducing a cartridge-fed breechloader. Dreiss needle gun. Developed in Prussia in 1836, the Dreiss needle gun was the first truly successful breech-loading firearm using an integrated paper cartridge, a groundbreaking leap that redefined warfare. Invented by Johann Nikolaus von Drese, it was adopted by the Prussian army in 1841 and proved its power in the Austro-Prussian War of 1866. It was called a needle gun because it used a long firing pin or needle to pierce through the cartridge and strike the primer at the base. This meant soldiers could reload from a prone position much faster than with muzzleloaders. It fired a .61 caliber paper cartridge with built-in powder and primer, achieving an effective range of 300 meters, with a rate of fire far superior to any earlier rifle. The Dreiss allowed infantry to fire while lying down, maintain constant pressure, and outpace their enemies in both speed and firepower, a decisive advantage in battles like Königgrätz, where Prussia defeated a much larger Austrian force. Its firing was crisp and dry. The handling felt ergonomic for its time, recoil was moderate, and its balanced weight made it ideal for fast shooting on open ground. Thanks to this rifle, Prussia was able to defeat larger, traditionally stronger enemies. The Dreiss needle gun wasn't just a weapon, it was the beginning of modern warfare. If you love historic, powerful, or just plain unusual firearms, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell, because what's coming next will blow your mind. Spencer repeating rifle. Released in 1860, the Spencer repeating rifle was one of the first truly successful repeating firearms used in combat. But more than that, it introduced, in a practical and effective way, the concept of multiple shots without reloading each time. Manufactured by the Spencer Repeating Rifle Company in the United States, it gained prominence during the American Civil War, where it was adopted by Union cavalry units. Its inventor, Christopher Spencer, personally demonstrated the rifle to President Abraham Lincoln, who was so impressed that he approved it for military use on the spot. The Spencer was a lever-action repeater, fed by a 7-round tubular magazine housed in the stock. It fired the 6.56 Spencer rimfire cartridge, a powerful round for its era. Operating it was straightforward. Work the lever to eject the spent casing and chamber a new round. This gave soldiers a massive tactical advantage, especially in ambushes, mounted combat, and fast-paced skirmishes. Its effective range was about 200 meters, offering solid accuracy. Recoil was light for a repeating rifle, and the shot had a dry, sharp sound. Very close. It was also well balanced, making it easy to operate one-handed, crucial for cavalry soldiers. Visually, the Spencer stood out. It had a polished dark wooden stock, visible steel mechanism, and the unique hidden magazine in the buttstock, a deadly surprise for enemies still reloading muzzleloaders. The Spencer was a game changer. Imagine being on a battlefield, firing 7 shots before your enemy even finishes loading his first. That was the power the Spencer brought to the fight. At the Battle of Hoover's Gap in 1863, a single Union unit equipped with Spencers held off a much larger Confederate force, all thanks to their superior rate of fire. If that sounds revolutionary, wait until you see the next firearm, the repeater that became the legend of the American West. Winchester Model 1873. Few firearms carry as much legend and lore as the Winchester Model 1873. Known as the gun that won the West, this rifle is more than a Hollywood icon. It's a cornerstone in the history of repeating firearms. Made by the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, it was the refinement of the lever-action system, offering speed, reliability, and deadly efficiency. It featured a side-loading gate and a tube magazine under the barrel that held up to 15 rounds. The most common caliber was .44 or .40 Winchester, a versatile round with moderate power, ideal for personal defense, hunting, and frontier skirmishes. Its effective range was around 150 meters, with mild recoil and good shot grouping. The firing system was simple, fast, and incredibly reliable. A skilled shooter could fire nearly 20 rounds per minute, reloading between bursts with ease. The look and feel of the Winchester was unmistakable. Glossy wood, a slick chrome bolt, smooth trigger, and the famous click-clack of its lever action. That sound became part of American cultural memory. It was used by farmers, lawmen, outlaws, hunters, and even some military units. Its compact size and high capacity made it one of the most versatile weapons of the 19th century. In real-world use, the Winchester was perfect for anyone who needed a fast, reliable, no-nonsense weapon ready for anything. If you've ever seen a classic Western, chances are you've seen this rifle in action. And here's something few people know. The Winchester Model 1873 is still manufactured today, in limited editions, fully functional, more than 150 years after it was first released. So far, we've talked about manual and repeating weapons. But the next entry in our list, it didn't just fire bullets. It redefined firepower itself, turning rotation into devastation. Lebel Model 1886. Released by France in 1886, the Lebel Model 1886 was the first military rifle in the world to use a cartridge loaded with smokeless powder. A breakthrough that completely reshaped the future of firearms. Made by the manufacturer d'armes de Châteauroux, the Lebel represented a massive leap forward. Before this rifle, all military guns relied on black powder, which produced heavy smoke, revealed shooter positions, and limited visibility. Smokeless powder changed everything: cleaner shots, more velocity, and longer range. The Lebel was a long rifle, measuring roughly 4 feet, with a tubular magazine under the barrel that held 8 rounds. It was chambered in 8mm Lebel, a fast, high-pressure round with excellent penetration. It used a bolt-action mechanism, and while the recoil was firm, the rifle's solid construction helped absorb the force. The gun's report was sharp, but produced much less smoke, something that surprised even veteran soldiers during early field training. With an effective range of over 500 meters and solid precision, thanks to its long barrel and aerodynamic bullet, the Lebel became a fearsome weapon on the battlefield. It served as France's primary infantry rifle in World War I and remained in use into World War II, later adapted into carbines and light machine guns. Visually, the Lebel was all business: dark hardwood, polished steel, a thick stock. A weapon built to last and to kill with precision. Few people realize how much of a ripple effect this rifle had. The Lebel sparked a global arms race, forcing every major military power to catch up, ushering in the modern era of bolt-action smokeless powder rifles. And if that already changed the game, the next weapon didn't just change it. It created a new one: the era of the machine gun. Gatling gun. Invented by Richard Gatling in 1862, the Gatling gun was the first functional machine gun in history. a weapon with multiple rotating barrels capable of unleashing a storm of bullets in seconds. Though it wasn't automatic in the modern sense, its hand crank mechanism allowed for a rate of fire over 200 rounds per minute, something unheard of at the time. It was fed by a hopper or drum magazine that could hold dozens of cartridges. This was a heavy weapon, typically mounted on tripods or artillery wheels. Calibers varied, but common ones included 45 to 70 government and .58, powerful enough to punch through targets at over 300 meters. The mechanics were mesmerizing. As the operator turned the crank, the barrels spun, each completing a cycle of loading, firing, and ejecting. It was a mechanical symphony of destruction. The visual impact of the Gatling was terrifying. The rhythmic roar and rotating barrels left lasting impressions on both enemies and observers. It marked the beginning of mechanized warfare. First used during the American Civil War, the Gatling gained real fame during colonial wars, where European powers used it to dominate entire regions with overwhelming firepower. Here's a wild fact. In one of its first official demonstrations, the Gatling gun fired over 1,000 rounds in 2 minutes, without a single malfunction. It was the future, spinning right before the eyes of 19th century generals. If that kind of firepower sounds brutal, just wait until we meet the first fully automatic weapon ever created. This is the moment where history hits overdrive. And if you're enjoying this journey through the world of historic firearms, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications, because what's coming next is even more insane. Maxim gun. Developed by Hiram Maxim in 1884, the Maxim gun was the first fully automatic machine gun in history, a true turning point in the art of war. Unlike the hand-cranked Gatling gun, Maxim was self-powered. It used the energy from each shot's recoil to eject the spent cartridge and load the next one, allowing for continuous fire with a single pull of the trigger. Initially manufactured in the United Kingdom, it fired the .303 British cartridge, with a rate of fire up to 500 rounds per minute. To keep the barrel cool during sustained fire, it featured a large water-cooled jacket, a signature of its design. The effective range reached over 1,000 meters, and its suppressive power was unmatched. The sound of the Maxim was a relentless staccato of thunderclaps, and the psychological impact it had on opposing forces was devastating. It was used with brutal efficiency in the Anglo-Zulu War, throughout World War I, and across numerous colonial campaigns. A single, well-positioned Maxim could hold off hundreds of enemy soldiers. Its design was so advanced for the time that many military leaders didn't immediately grasp its full potential. But once they did, the very nature of ground warfare changed forever. The Maxim wasn't just a new weapon, it was the dawn of modern, mechanized war. And if that was the beginning, then the final weapon on our list is where the concept reached its peak. Let's wrap up this journey with the one machine gun that truly earned the title of Battlefield King. Vickers machine gun. Officially introduced in 1912, the Vickers machine gun was the culmination of the automatic weapon concept. Based on the Maxim design, it was lighter, more reliable, and practically indestructible. In short, it was a war machine built to endure anything. Manufactured by Vickers Limited in the United Kingdom, it became the standard machine gun of the British Army throughout World War I and stayed in service until 1968, over half a century of active military use. It fired the .303 British round, the same as the Lee Enfield rifle, and was fed by metal-linked belts holding 50 to 200 rounds. The gun had a firing rate of 500 to 600 rounds per minute, operated on short recoil action, and featured a water-cooled barrel with a large cylindrical tank that held about 1 gallon 4 liters. Its effective range exceeded 1,000 meters, and it was incredibly accurate for a machine gun of its era. Thanks to its sturdy build and weight, the recoil was manageable, and the gun could maintain continuous fire with almost no disruption. But what truly set the Vickers apart was its legendary durability. In documented military trials, a single Vickers was able to fire over 1 million rounds without mechanical failure, requiring only fresh ammo, water, and oil. Very few weapons in history even come close to this level of reliability. The Vickers produced a deep rhythmic beat, like a mechanical war drum. It had a strong, no-nonsense look, with its solid steel frame and water tank. In a fortified position, it created a wall of bullets that was nearly impossible to breach. It saw action on every major front of World War I, in World War II, and in colonial conflicts across the Middle East and Africa. On the battlefield, it could deliver hours of continuous fire, literally, without jamming or overheating. At the Battle of the Somme, British gunners used Vickers machine guns to hold defensive lines under non-stop assault in the middle of soaked, muddy trenches, and the guns just kept going. Here's a mind-blowing fact. In a 1916 test, 2 gunners fired 500,000 rounds in 12 hours using a single Vickers, cooling it with water from nearby ponds, and even using cooking oil to keep the mechanism lubricated. That's the power of the Vickers. It wasn't just the successor to the Maxim, it was the pinnacle of a mechanical age, the gun that turned machine gunning into a dominating force of 20th century warfare. Today, we walked through over 2 centuries of technological evolution, from flintlock muskets to fully automatic machine guns that shaped the brutal realities of modern warfare. We looked at rare, iconic, deadly, and even bizarre weapons, but each one told its own story. Every firearm on this list represents more than just a trigger pull. They represent innovation, context, and a chapter in the history of war, and humanity itself. These aren't just weapons. They're symbols of eras, of battles, of entire ways of life. Whether in the heat of combat, the hands of a soldier, or sitting silently in a museum, they carry immense historical weight. Now tell me in the comments, which of these firearms impressed you the most? Which one would you love to see in person, or even have in your collection? And of course, if you love content like this, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay tuned, because every week we bring you new videos about the most fascinating, powerful, and historic firearms the world has ever seen. See you in the next video.